Here is our stressed out student. He comes to our class with all sorts of problems. Bills to pay, roommates, depressing Irish weather, the food that they don't like here, pronunciation problems, grammar problems, etc. So generally, the conclusion is my life in Ireland sucks. And they bring all that with them to the classroom. Okay? So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the theoretical background that led me to believe that a friendly atmosphere in the classroom is really important. One of the advocates of such a claim is Krashen, and he claims that learners with high motivation, self-confidence, good self-image, and a low level of anxiety are better equipped for success in second language acquisition. There's also another author that I draw on extensively, and that's Rebecca Oxford, in her theories of cognitive and metacognitive strategies. Some speakers here have already referred to metacognitive strategies, which are connected with planning, the organization of the learning. But there are two other types of strategies, socio-affective strategies, which are connected with how the learners actually feel in the classroom and what sort of relationships they develop with other learners. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the practical application of the theoretical background. So one of the things that I've noticed is important to use with our learners is sense of humor in teaching. So this is probably one of such examples. I'm a little stressed right now, just turn around and leave quietly. No one gets hurt. We can use those with our students because humor is seriously underrated in language teaching. There aren't very many course books really that draw on humor, that use humor as a English language teaching technique. It's really very important because it helps to create a relaxed atmosphere. It has a positive effect on classroom dynamics. It helps learners to overcome stress and makes them more receptive to learning. And also it counteracts the low affective filter that Krashen claims exists. He says that in a high stress environment, the effectiveness of learning is really low. So we need to counteract that. We need to make our students more relaxed. There are different sources of humor that we can use in our classroom. We can use cartoons, we can use jokes, we can use situational comedies, videos which are available from YouTube, for example. We can use situational comedies, bloppers, lots of fun there, quotes about humor, and also students' tongue slips. I remember teaching a group of students about the environment and buildings, and one of the words they were supposed to learn as a skyscraper, but they came up with the word skycrapper, or size, which, you can draw on that as well. And I said, oh, what is a skycrapper? It's probably a bird doing something, like. Another example of that is the mispronunciations of words where there you have got a minimal pair in vowels, E and E, for example. Students often go on holidays and they spend time on a beach, but instead of saying beach, they use another word, B-I-T-C-H, which is not necessarily, the word we would like to hear from them. So the beach, bitch, sort of difference. Now, what is the linguistic value of using humor in class? If we use cartoons, jokes, or sitcoms, we can present fun, present culture. They are sources of authentic material. We can focus on different language problems. We can use cartoons, for example, as starters to illustrate topic of a lesson. We can introduce a grammar point using that. We can introduce new vocabulary. We can try and make learners put dialogues together or as a source for a narrative or a description. So this is using humor. is our humor in classroom. Now, another word, another idea, another technique that we can use, and again, something that has already been sort of touched upon here, is using visualizations. So what we do in class, we ask our students to sit in a comfortable position, like you were asked to do when there was this sort of short meditation session here, feet on the ground, comfortable position, close your eyes. Some students are, or maybe a little bit reluctant at first, to close their eyes, but just, if not, let them, keep your eyes open, but when they notice that the rest of the class have closed their eyes, they will naturally follow. Tell them, I've got no gun, I'm not going to hurt you, there's no danger coming from me. So, work on their breathing, make them breathe sort of rhythmically, slowly, focus on the inhale, on the exhale. You can additionally play some relaxation music to accompany that. There is a lot of relaxation meditation music available on YouTube at the moment that you can use with them. And what the teacher does, you will guide them through the relaxation session. You'll tell them what to do. Say, close your eyes. You are on the beach now. You are walking down the beach. You see a stone. Touch the stone. How does it feel? And so on. So when they close their eyes, they actually block this major sort of source of perception, and they have to rely on other senses of perception through which they can perceive the world and use them in the descriptions. Again, what is the linguistic value here? We can practice the use of new grammar. When I teach an elementary group at ECM, and I often tell them, today we're going to do a visualization and look at the S, third person singular, present simple suffix. And they close their eyes, and I give them two forms. I give them the infinitive form and the third person form. And I say, when you hear the third person form, repeat it. Don't say it aloud, but in your mind, and do something with the suffix. Change it somehow so that it stands out. For example, you can make it bigger. You can highlight it. You can look at it in a different color, and they do it. And I've noticed that, of course, they're not going to learn, the third person suffix immediately, but it does help. It does sort of, make them focused and better aware of that. We can also use visualizations in a pre-reading activity, pre-writing activity to activate the students' schemata. We can use that in creative speaking or as a preparation for a role play when they are supposed to sort of adopt a new personality, for example, and imagine that they are someone else. So this is visualization. The next step here is taking the emotional temperature. And again, as you can see, we can do it in two ways. We can use sort of simple vocabulary, fantastic, great, better than good, very good, and so on. Or with the advanced learners, we can use more advanced, upper intermediate, advanced vocabulary. When I start the class with my students, I usually ask them, how are you feeling today? Imagine a scale from 1 to 10. 10 is really excellent. 1 is, I feel really bad. And place yourselves, rate yourselves on that scale from 10 to 1, and tell your partner about how you feel. In that way, they can tell one another about their feelings, but also they can engage into a short conversation and say, why are you feeling like that today? What can you do to change that? Has something happened? Has something led you to feeling that way? So, linguistic value, to introduce, practice vocabulary, to talk about feelings, attitudes, to practice verbs of perception, for example, structures I feel like, I feel as if. Another activity that I do with my students is a therapy session. That is actually taken directly from community language learning. in which students normally sit in a circle. The teacher sort of stands behind the circle, walks around, and helps the students whenever they need the help, but they are sort of left to their own resources. So in our therapy session, students make notes of their problems pertaining to language, to their language learning anxieties, frustrations, difficulties, or other problems that they may simply encounter in their everyday life. The teacher will then collect the notes and distribute the notes to other students. Students are given some time, allocated some time to prepare the answers, and then they have a discussion. They can have a whole group discussion, like, for example, when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous or Shopaholics Anonymous or other, you introduce yourself and you say, "Hello, my name is Darek, I have a problem with this and that," and then the whole group can join in and help. Or they just work together with a partner. Additionally, they can compare their daily records of emotional temperature. I encourage my students to keep their reflective diaries and to write down a little bit about how they feel during the class. Are they enjoying the class or not? Is there anything that they would like to change? Basically, to keep a record of the language learning process. If they want, if they are, if they feel like sharing their emotions or sharing their feelings with others, I encourage them to bring the diaries to class and then work in a group and draw on that, show one another what they have written. Now, what is the linguistic value of that, the language focus? Well, of course, there is the communicative function. Learners here speak purposefully. There's a particular purpose in mind. They can practice various language functions, such as giving advice, recommending, making suggestions, asking for clarification. In terms of pronunciation, there's the focus on intonation, how to sound polite, how to sound sympathetic, and also they speak personally. And I think that speaking personally is the best source of creativity for students, because they draw on their own personal experiences. This is not something foreign to them. This is something that belongs directly to them. And finally, we've got our student who is totally relaxed in a state of complete bliss. Thank you very much.